Hello, 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 everybody out there in speed gaming land and internet land, and welcome back to the Alpha Door Derby, which is a tournament, of course, for this Chrono Trigger randomizer Jets of Time. Today we're going to see dipwood take on PhilosoRay. This is a lower bracket match, one of our round 3 matches. And one of these runners is going to move on into the top 8, where we're going to be using some more challenging flags. And another of the runners, unfortunately, will be eliminated. And unfortunately, that's the way of tournaments, but they're going to give us an exciting race either way. So let's get excited. This is going to be a good one, I think. We've got, a couple of different runners here. PhilosoRay is a newer runner, but who's been improving very swiftly. Dipwood has been around for a little bit, but has, was on sabbatical for a bit and is rapidly getting used to a lot of the changes we've had. So this is definitely going to be a really great matchup. I'm excited. I hope everybody else is excited. And we're going to get these runners going in just a second here. They've loaded up their seed. The flags that we're playing with are our sort of default league race flags. We call that the Millennial Pre. That's the preset on our tracker. So we're playing with boss randomization chiefly. We are playing with Zeal 2 as the final boss if you get to Black Omen Go mode. Our runners are in fact looking for one of the 3 Go modes in order to defeat Lavos or Zeal. We can talk about that in a little bit here. And then after this week, there is one more match this week. There's a match on Saturday. And that Saturday match is going to feature 1 free Fitz and the Schwantz, also very exciting. And then we will have determined our top 8 runners, and we'll be going to our hard flag set instead. So that's going to change things up a bit too. Everything is really heating up in this tournament. And we are just going to get our runners off here in just a second. Welcome everyone in chat too, from the Jets of Time community and from Speedgaming. Did I remember the command right? I did not. And I apologize. The racers are getting underway here shortly though. Okay, and here we go. Over here we see on PhilosoRay's side and dipwood's 2 a Magus and Lucas start. That is a lot of magic. It's not a lot of physical power, although because Magus is a late game character, he starts with a later game weapon and, hits harder than you would think in the early game for sure. Alright, here we go. PhilosoRay is going to start his opening loop up there in Dorino. check the shop. Dipwood is going to check down in Pori instead. Ray finding several of the items that people like to find. Most players of Jets of Time are going to do a lot of similar things in this opening loop here. They're gonna do several things in this first, like, you know, 3 to 5 or more minutes, depending on what you want to get done. But we're gonna check some shops for our mid-tonics, our heals, our ethers, our revives, and our shelters. We are gonna check the snail stop, which Dipwood is doing just now for a key item. Looks like that was the Thomas Pop. The Thomas Pop will open up Giant's Claw, so Dipwood doesn't feel he needs that right now. Same with PhilosoRay. But in addition to the shopping, our players are going to be checking. They checked Snail Stop to peek that key item. Don't need it just yet. There's a free key item here as well at the Lazy Carpenter. After talking to him in the inn, you can talk to his wife. Both the players are about to grab this one at the same time. That's a jerky. All right, well, the jerky is not progression. And, you know, people aren't usually super excited to see it because it's not progression. But that said, that's a free check, so you didn't really waste time on it, and you can turn it in and get a high caliber item. It won't be a key item, but it would be usually something pretty good. You know, it could be as good as a haste helm, it could be a rainbow, it could be a wonder shot. Ducking into the Elder's house in Medina here to grab some tabs, which is another thing that a lot of players will want to do in their opening loop. Some of the tabs are randomized for Jets of Time. Speed tabs are very powerful, so speed tabs will always be +1. However, magic tabs can be +1 to +3. Power tabs can be +2 to +4. Dipwood is going to stop at Xenon Bridge there, talk to the Knight Captain, while meanwhile PhilosoRay goes and pets the cat. Very important to pet Chrono's cat, because that means your run is validated, of course. Alright, Dipwood is turning in the jerky. So we're about to see what that will yield. Ooh. Well, the jerky is Prism Specs. Prism Specs, if you don't know, is an accessory that raises the damage that character does by 50%. Just all of their damage across the board. It is an incredibly powerful item and a very exciting one to find this early. Very exciting. All right, Dipwood is finished with his opening loop. Generally, when people are done, they're going to come in here to the front of the cathedral, where after this Naga-et fight, you're going to pick up a third party member. And of course, that party member will be as random as the rest of them, so we'll see who it is in a second. And PhilosoRay is here in Guardia Forest, presumably grinding on these enemies to learn some techs. Dipwood, on the other hand, went into this fight without doing much of that, but Magus's sickle attack, you know, it is often about strong enough to take the Naga-ets down, so it's a reasonable shot. We're gonna see Lucas techs over here on PhilosoRay's side. Okay, we've got Mega Bomb and we've got Protect. Every character but Magus will learn a couple attacks off of that fight, but he needs more tech points. Alright, so the third character in the cathedral is Marl. So far, this is a heavily magical team. This is, in fact, Team Blackrock. That can be a tempting strategy sometimes. Pretty much no physical power to speak of, but when it comes to magic, it does not get better than these three. Okay, Dipwood coming into Cathedral here. PhilosoRay is checking Xenon Bridge. Phone, the prism specs were on the jerky. Alright, the item on Xenon Bridge is the prism shard, but PhilosoRay is going to reset out of that. So I believe in chat you can always help me keep up, but we got a Thomas Pop on Snail Stop waiting there, and the Prism Shard waiting there on Xenon Bridge. PhilosoRay is also checking down here in Frog's Burrow. There's always a character here. It's Robo. That's useful information. Robo does gate a check. Dipwood is meanwhile finishing this fight for the Naga Epramide. And it looks like, for now, as his name might suggest, he's gonna dip out of Cathedral. You might, players might finish Cathedral, go to the back. You do get rewarded with a fourth playable character for that. Or you may not finish. A lot of people will grab that Naga Epramide in Jets of Time. It gets you one of each kind of tab, which is very valuable because it includes that speed tab for one. So most people will grab that for sure. And then, completing it just depends on how you're feeling about how open the seed is. Do you need that character? We've actually seen between these two runners, we know that Robo is in the burrow, so we know that doing the desert check, which requires him, is going to be behind the two pieces of the Masamune sword. And likely enough, possibly behind Magus's Castle Go mode. On the other hand, Dipwood's got Marl, so he knows that if the Prism Shard shows up, which it will if he checks Xenon Bridge, which he set up earlier, he'll know that that's on the table. PhilosoRay coming into Cathedral, probably a little later than average, but having picked up a lot of knowledge for sure. Dipwood does a little menuing to check techs, and looks like he's headed for Hecarim Cave. Yep. Or are we thinking better of Hecarim Cave, perhaps? As PhilosoRay picks up Marl. Okay, Dipwood is gonna do a little more shopping. Can't criticize anybody for that, that's for sure. Sometimes you're looking for something specific. Yeah, Dipwood is here at this shop, actually, the Chorus in 600 AD shop. That is an unusual one to have to visit, but if If we're not finding things like ethers, which I saw him pick up, then you might go out of your way to visit that one. So, you know, congrats to Dipwood for finding the ethers. That's always a big relief for a runner. Dipwood is going to check out Xenon Bridge here while PhilosoRay is in Cathedral. Looks like Ray is going to duck out for now as well. PhilosoRay, of course, knowing also where Robo is, possibly feels pretty confident about skipping that character check. Marl and Robo are the characters that gate things. Traditionally, Frog also gates a go mode, but of course you don't need him until you have that go mode, so you can sort of put off the need for him. Okay, and Dipwood, having picked up Marl before he came to Xenon Bridge, is going to go ahead and go through with it for that Prism Shard. Going to check that out. There are of course some great benefits to coming to Xenon Bridge other than simply the key item check. You do get that power tab from the chef. You also get to fight these Ozzy fights, and Ozzy's drops, his item drops, are on the boss table, so there is a chance for pretty sweet gear to drop on the bridge. So we'll see in a sec what this fight yields. Could be nothing, but it could be a lot. It looks like PhilosoRay, having also now gathered Marl, has decided that bridge is a good idea. So we're definitely going to see what's on that Prism Shard in a little bit. And the easiest way to wipe these skeleton fights is to wipe them with full screen magic. Any element but shadow will do. But if you can't do that, you can always hit Ozzy 3 times with anything, and he will yield. We've got a Giga Gaia on the bridge. Those beefy hands are going to start trouble. Giga Gaia here, of course, is randomized from its normal position atop Mount Woe, so, you know, it's missing its body, but that's okay. But the hands will still start the usual nonsense, like these AoE attacks. And as we can see, Marl has hopefully briefly fallen victim. The good news is that the HP values for the bosses here on Xenon Bridge are going to be pretty low. You know, the head is going to have around 2,000, the hands are going to have a percentage of that. And so, luckily, the hands, which are the damage dealer, can be dispatched fairly efficiently. We see here that Mega Bomb is the main source of damage. Luca's late game AoE fire elemental tech. Usually not what people want to see first. Most people running Luca want to see Fire 2. Fire 2 goes into all those lovely double techs, or maybe Flare, but Mega Bomb does hit pretty hard for what it's worth. Alright, and Dipwood is through that Giga Gaia fight. I suspect PhilosoRay is going to be pretty shortly behind. Okay, Dipwood has turned in that bromide for those 3 tabs. Always a good deal. Checking techs again. Alright, Dipwood is going to check Denadoro Mountains next here. Quickly dispatching this first goblin. Getting the warning that it's best to flee immediately. I'm gonna defeat this Ogon here. Luca doing just enough damage to top off Magus' sickle there. Gonna begin our run up the mountain. That fight, of course, one of the unavoidable ones. Dipwood running away quickly, and PhilosoRay has completed Xenon Bridge, gotten through Giga Gaia there. And are we heading back into Cathedral, perhaps? Looks like, yeah, PhilosoRay is gonna head to the back of Cathedral. Now, there are actually some advantages to putting off doing back of Cathedral. You can gain a bit of power on Xenon Bridge, and that will certainly make the fights, the few required fights back here, a little bit faster to deal with. But getting caught on that Bellbird skip, I can attest that's one of the most annoying skips. And agreed, Nate in chat says, I like the play Philoso is doing. Could be Ayla or Frog. I completely agree. We know that Robo is down in that burrow, so this could be Ayla or Frog. It could also be Chrono. You know, any of the characters that this could be in the back of Cathedral has potential great synergy with some of the party members that we're already seeing here. Dipwood hits the save point on top of Denadoro Mountains as PhilosoRay plays the organ to open the door. Dipwood grabbing the speed tab. Always grab that speed tab. Always forget that chest Dipwood grabbed is up there too, especially if you're playing Chrono Sanity, which is the mode where key items can appear in chests. Very popular with multi-world, which, by the way, if you're not that into speedrunning, we do have a monthly multi-world game in our Discord that you can join. Even if you are into speedrunning. Okay, so Dipwood's battle here with the twins, Masa and Mune here begins. This is one of the only boss fights that isn't randomized. but the boss that they combine to become will be randomized. PhilosoRay, meanwhile, has run into Mother Brain here in the back of the cathedral. Nobody loves to see Mother Brain, but this is one of the weakest boss spots in the game. So it does mean that at least she's not waiting for you, you know, in the back of go mode, just, you know, with 10,000 HP waiting for you to die. Acid Crab pointing out it's a bit of a risky play by Dipwood, and that is true depending on whether we can get through this boss. It's a Mega Mutant. He can probably get through that with Mega Bomb, but depending on what the boss is on Denadoro Mountains, if you come up here too early, you can kind of get blocked from going forward. 3,600 HP in this boss spot is a lot when you haven't leveled up much yet. Yeah, for sure. Let's see how this pays off. Luckily, Mega Mutant, if you're gonna run into a mutant, this is probably the weakest one, quote-unquote. They're all pretty annoying. PhilosoRay is, meanwhile, through Mother Brain back there. Mega Bomb carrying its weight here. Alright, excellent job by Dipwood. Ooh, and that mutant dropped a speed tab. That is always fantastic. You always love to see that. So, depending on what this key item is, this could end up being quite the play. Alright, we have Frog here as Queen of the Castle on PhilosoRay's side. And meanwhile, Dipwood is about to pick up a key item. Alright, and Dipwood has found the Ruby Knife. That is a Go Mode item. That is a piece of the Tyranno-Lair Go Mode. You need the Ruby Knife, the Dreamstone, and the Gate Key. You can go through Tyranno-Lair and then through the Kingdom of Zeal to the Ocean Palace. Unfortunately, we haven't seen the other pieces of that Go Mode yet, but it's still pretty early, so we might be happy to see that. Okay, and PhilosoRay has meanwhile swapped our favorite Froggy into the party and is going downstairs to peek at that prism shard. Oh, clip the snake. While Dipwood heads now into Hecarim Cave. Now, Dipwood, I think, has strategically put off Hecarim Cave in a nice way here. He's going to have gathered some tech points in these other checks he's done. Meanwhile, they're kind of small beans, sure, but it does get Magus closer to that level of 50 that he needs to get his first tech, and after that, you can take advantage of tech point doubling. I believe Dipwood did not catch the rock on Denadoro. And, you know, agreed. I would love to see some rock strats. Dark Eternal can be very fun. Okay, we see PhilosoRay's return to Snail Stop here. picking up that item perchance. Yes, Acid Crab, recommending the classic Moon Blizzard versus Corinth match from one of our first, maybe the first Jets of Time tournaments, I think spring 2021. There was a blue rock, there were specs, there might have been multiple specs. It was a time. It was beautiful and also tragic and, you know, poetry, right? Okay, PhilosoRay has now made his way to this tourist shop, getting those ethers. Dipwood has hit the cave bat fight, which may or may not has decided to come into Hecarim Cave as well. This is, of course, the dungeon in the vanilla game that you would play straight after learning magic from Specchio, which we haven't done in this run of the randomizer yet. But the enemies are, as a consequence of that, greatly vulnerable to magical damage, and drop you a lot of tech points so that you can get closer to learning even more magic techs. Okay, Dipwood doesn't want that jar fight. He took the bat fight, so, you know, that's a decent trade-off. Okay, we got Retinite here in Hecarim Cave. Now, this is not necessarily who you want to run into with this party. And clearly Dipwood shares my sentiments a little bit. That's a really tough break. This is a really strong team, but depending on what you have available, I don't remember if he's picked up many techs. Ah, here we go. Here we go. But with this particular party, one of the best ways to defeat that Retinite, you're not going to have the physical damage to do it. The one thing that will do the same thing as physical damage, more or less, is this black hole spell, because our black hole is modified for Jets of Time, in part because it causes a lot of problems, and we don't want, like, the game crashing, you know. So, black hole on Magus is now an AoE based around himself that does non-elemental damage, and it also has the Doom effect, which is to say, if Magus has one or two downed party members, then its power can be doubled or even tripled. And look at that, Dipwood got Black Hole off of that fight. What I will point out here is it's pretty impressive. He hasn't been opening his menu that much, so he knew he was gonna, he knew he could get that. And we're switching those prism specs onto Magus so that his Black Hole will do extra damage, since that's what's gonna be primarily harming the boss here. PhilosoRay fights his way through Hecarim Cave over there. Now he's got Black Hole off of that fight. I'm sure both of our runners are really hoping for some screen-wide damage. That would be very helpful in a situation like this, especially in Hecarim Cave. That Mega Bomb can hit groups of enemies sometimes, but we definitely see runners, you know, taking a little longer with these fights than would be ideal. And, you know, that's how it is sometimes. Those roly-polies scattered. Alright, and Dipwood has cleared out that Retinite. Very clean, beautiful, 10 out of 10. Acid Crab pointing out that your routing in this game can greatly affect your checkpoint tracking. This is true. There's a trick in Chrono Trigger. It comes from the vanilla game. It's a small programming oversight. Wouldn't quite call it a glitch. But if a character learns something off of a fight, the tech points they gain will then be gained again if they have learned a tech. Alright, we have the Moonstone off of Hecarim Cave. Moonstone is certainly not useful immediately. The problem with the Moonstone is you need to charge it, so you must have access to both prehistory and the future, with unfortunately neither of our runners have hunted down yet. That's eluding us still. You know, I'm wondering about that Thomas pot personally, but we're gonna see. And after you've charged the Moonstone into the Sunstone, you have to bring it to Melchior in the basement of the castle, which means you must have cleared the Prism Shard quest, which our runners are able to do, but maybe don't want to do without a better reason. And the Prism Shard was peaked. It was the Robo's ribbon. Okay, PhilosoRay is now facing that Retinite. Using the strategy of physical attacks, which is going to be slower, but on the other hand, it will not kill the core, which will prevent Retinite from using some of its nastier attacks. And Dipwood doesn't want that Robo's ribbon. Interestingly, there was a Gloom Cape in the basement down there for Magus, which is interesting. If someone wanted that, they could run in and get it again. And yes, correct. Question in chat, what haven't they done? And Nate answers Giant's Claw, and I think that is the answer at this point. Yes, the Thomas Pop is on Snail Stop. I saw that PhilosoRay had gone and looked at it. I don't know that he had bought it yet. Looks like Dipwood is, yep, checking his money. So we're going to go ahead and take that pop that Toma gave us and pour it on his grave 400 years later, and he's going to tell us where there's treasure. And that's why you should be friends with ghosts. We're still fighting the Retinite over here on PhilosoRay's side. as its defense is going up when attacked each turn, it is possible the core has been killed. The animation doesn't always play when the boss moves. But it does make it much more difficult as it becomes harder to deal the damage. PhilosoRay may not know that that black hole will deal non-elemental damage and would probably kill it. And that's fair, because that's not a vanilla feature. That is a randomizer feature. Okay, Dipwood is popping into Giant's Claw. This is the last check we have left open right now. We need to open up progress to one of the other time periods. So this has got to lead us to one of the items that lead us to other time periods, and that's the gate key for prehistory, also part of Tyranno-Lair Go mode. Could also be the pendant, which leads to the future, and is part of the Black Omen Go mode. There is also a chance that this will not directly be one of those. It could be the hero medal, and that could lead to it. I think that's about the only other thread of items we could follow at this point, because the Prism Shard and Moonstone are accounted for. But this must lead to progress. Okay. PhilosoRay has reset out of that Retinite fight. Magus not getting that Ice 2 until 50-something tech points. Dipwood finds the White Rock in Giant's Claw, which unfortunately requires Ayla, Luca, and Marl. That's not the rock we're looking for. Ah, sad. But let's pray for that black rock to show up. Let's manifest a black rock so that we can see some, like, eternal multiple power tabs in Giant's Claw. Giant's Claw is honestly the thing you have to worry about most is the boss having its 4000 HP. It's a bit high if you're early in the game, but it can be a super fast dungeon to run through, and there's 3 power tabs, which granted, this is like the worst party that Dipwood's running to care about power tabs, but he may replace one of them later, and, you know, in general, that's good to know. PhilosoRay is meanwhile heading off of that other offshoot, off to that other offshoot of Hector Cave, grabbing a few more tech points. I don't think it's going to be quite enough. I don't know that he skipped much else. I'm trying to think about it, though. Dipwood is going to fight Atropos XR here at the bottom of Giant's Claw. She's normally faced solo by Robo and Genodome in the vanilla game. Here we get to fight her with a whole party. She's usually not too bad. If you let her live for too long, she will self-destruct. Also, if you defeat her in time, she'll self-destruct. She just... If you let her live for too long, she'll do it, like, you know, like 10 times before she dies or something. It's probably not 10, but... she is usually not something that is worried about. And I think Dipwood is doing a very nice job here. Atropos is actually one of the bosses who follows a very specific script. If you memorize what she's going to do, you will know exactly what she's going to do and the order she's going to do it in. Okay. Ray has come back with that Ice 2. He did find enough tech points. That's really exciting. So now we're going to see the end of that Retinite. On Dipwood's side, we got Magus took an Uzi punch to the face, which, you know, would knock anybody out. So that's very understandable. We're going to bring him back so that he doesn't miss out on the experience and tech points from this fight. Alright, PhilosoRay is attacking that core. Okay, and he did end up killing the core again. which may have happened because he automatically queued attacks. The really annoying thing about Retinite is it's always gonna point your attacks towards the stupid core. Like it wants you to screw up and kill the core so that that thing's defense will shoot up. That's what the game wants you to do the first time. So it is, in fact, pretty easy to kill that thing on accident. Right. Atropos is into her overheating phase over on Dipwood's side, I believe. At this point, she's just gonna do area bomb until she's done, or you are. Alright, and Dipwood has got Atropos cooked, as we say. Nice stock of tech points, getting Dark Mist on Magus, that's gonna help a lot. That's basically his Shadow 2 tech. Magus's techs get nice names, you know, Luca has Fire 2, Marl has Ice 2, but Magus's like nice Shadow tech actually has a name. That's about what it's equivalent to. And there's the pendant. We don't have to go check behind the hero medal or anything. That's good. And I can't imagine that Dipwood has anything on his mind but going to the future, but let's see. Well, maybe, you know, maybe some errands or something. But that is certainly the way forward. PhilosoRay is unfortunately struggling with this Retinite. When you kill that core, he gets mean. He gets mean very quickly. His defense goes up after hits. I believe the speed goes up, or that's what it always feels like. He gets nastier attacks. I feel like they're more frequent. Generally, you want to kill the other pieces first. But again, the game absolutely tries to draw you into killing that core. Looks like Dipwood is after some groceries here. So, yeah, he's running an errand, and that's totally fine. Gonna sell some gear that isn't needed. Pick up those shelters. Couple revives, too. Remind me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what it was. Stream came back as he was running out of the house. All right, and PhilosoRay is doing this jerky turn-in now. That is definitely going to help out, as we know from Dipwood's run. That is the Prism specs. A lovely, lovely pair of plus 50% damage. Dipwood has busted Magus straight out of his cell, because they didn't bother to disarm him, so, you know. Fighting some guards, fighting some mask guys. Nothing that interesting in the way of drops. Sometimes these fights have pretty interesting yields, but I think not this time. The guards are dropping barriers, which can come in useful sometimes. But with Team Magic, you're probably more looking for extra physical defense and not magic defense. Getting caught by the guard. You can, of course, avoid these guards, but ultimately their movement is random. Looks like we are going to see a Fritz save over here on Dipwood's side, or he's getting treasure at least. Okay, okay. But he picked up a tab and vest too. That is armor for Luca with speed +2, so that's a great find for this party. And now that Fritz has left with his head and his body connected to one another, there's Dipwood's Magus learning Ice 2 off that last guard fight. Mountains are nice. PhilosoRay gonna pick up that magic tab from the Kilwalla there. +2, not bad. Useful with everyone in the party he's running, especially if Frog ever picks up any of his healing techs. Dipwood, meanwhile, has reassembled his party. We're about to see what's in the dragon tank spot on the bridge. PhilosoRay catches the rock on Denadora Mountains. It's the blue rock. Alright, there's the blue rock up there, so we know that Dipwood didn't skip the black rock. It's still possible. Alright, Dipwood is gonna have to fight Nisbel 2 here, whom you can shock with electricity damage if you've got it. I think anything light elemental will do it. To lower his physical defense, but magic damage will cut through that, so we've got enough of that. I think that this is gonna be a short one. Right, PhilosoRay has arrived in the cave at the top of the mountain, gonna challenge the twins. Okay, and there's Dipwood getting through Nisbel 2, no problem. Got a rainbow helm. That's pretty good. That boss often drops nicer things, though, so it's, you know, sometimes it's disappointing when you don't get, like, 3 nice items. But I'm sure that rainbow helm won't go amiss. PhilosoRay is done with the twin fight. As we know, we're gonna see a Mega Mutant in a sec here, as Dipwood flies off to the future. Alright, and that is gonna drop Dipwood here in Bangor Dome. And that is the location of the first sealed door. Dipwood's pendant is charged in jets of time by going to the future, since the Mammon machine is in an endgame area. And he's gonna come down to this dome and get the treasure here too. Lots of nice items potentially behind the sealed doors in the future. PhilosoRay is hitting Mega Mutant with Mega Bombs meanwhile. Right, a magic seal, that's not bad. Use the Enertron here, free healing, that's always great. And now that Dipwood is in the future, he has a lot of options. Gonna check the shop here, but there are 3 checks that can be done. We can do RS Dome, we can do Son of Sun at Sun Palace. It would probably be a random boss, of course. Or we can do Geno Dome, which is notoriously kind of a time sink. So we'll see what the decision is here. There's also a character to pick up in Protodome. And should a player decide they want to, they could also go through the factory and open up the End of Time, which would open up magic as well as Mount Woe. PhilosoRay has now picked up that ruby knife. Alright, Dipwood is saving outside of Protodome. You can always tell anyone who's played this for a while, we're all super spooked by Protodome, and everybody saves outside of it a bunch because it used to be very, very easy to crash the game out there. It is luckily a lot less easy to crash the game in there now. Our dev team has done a really good job of making it safe, but I don't know about everybody else. I'm still, like, spooked. It's just a superstition at this point. Done with these robots, we're gonna find out who awaits Dipwood here up in Protodome. It's Chrono. I imagine we'll be picking him up. We saved Fritz, so Chrono's presence will allow us to pick up those free mid-ethers from Fritz, and may also be checking what kind of power Chrono has on him. PhilosoRay is now heading into Giant's Claw as well, which we know will take him to the pendant. Chrono has Confuse, Spin Cut, and Lightning 2. That's not bad. Confuse is probably his best tech, all things considered, since he's more of a physical character than a magic character. That Aeon Blade is decent. It's not the best, you know, you always hope for something a little better, but you can get by with an Aeon Blade for sure. So, Super Slash, who is going to have something like 6,500 HP here. That's not, you know, everyone's idea of a great time, but he is done with that now, so we're about to see what item is here on Sun Palace, as well as grabbing an amulet off that fight and learning Dark Matter on Magus, which is his most powerful tech. That's great. It's the Dreamstone. Okay, so that Dreamstone is piece number 2 of Tyranno-Lair Go mode. We've already got the ruby knife, and now we're seeing the Dreamstone, so the missing item is the gate key. Looks like we'll be heading into RS Dome next. Resting in that Enertron, the iconic classic Enertron. Unfortunately, we are still hungry. Alright, and here, guarding the back room of RS Dome is a Lavos spawn. Specifically the Elder Lavos spawn. The difference is that this is the one randomized from out of the back of the Black Omen. The one marked simply Lavos spawn is the Death Peak version. This one hits a little harder, it's a little meaner most of the time. However, its shell, when it counterattacks, will only hit a single target instead of hitting your entire party, as the younger spawn does. And if you're desperate, that is something you can abuse to get through it. That said, I think Dipwood will probably have enough power. It's a little obnoxious because he's probably wanting single target hits. Chrono's gonna miss some of those confused shots because, you know, Chrono does that. But the HP here isn't super high, so I don't think that this is going to pose too much of a challenge. We got PhilosoRay over here handling Atropos. Hitting her with a Dark Mist. Yep, Dipwood's done. Got this, the note. The rat is more than just a statue. Catch it. Oh, Dipwood did get slightly hung up there, so he's going to repeat the rat catching. I think he would have made it, but I completely understand the desire to start over. There we go. PhilosoRay has picked up that pendant. Okay, come on, come on, come on. Oh, no, not quite. That rat is a fast little guy, and you have to do this pretty smoothly to catch him. Nice catch by Snapplestuff in chat. That Elder Spawn did drop a Mega Elixir. You'll love to see one of those for sure. Okay, Dipwood is going to pop back here and turn on the computer and read off the names Zelfer, I'm All In, and Corinth of the top 3 from our last tournament. You know, GG's to all of them. And we are now looking with this tournament to enshrine a new set of names. So that's very exciting. Okay, we got a Valkyrie, a Hyper Ether, a Slasher, and a Swallow here in the back room of Arisdome, which is not bad at all. A couple nice weapons for Chrono. The Swallow is probably the better of the two with the power. Speed +3. And as Wayfaring Fox points out, I believe correctly, the 2 progression options here are Gate Key and Bent Hilt and Bent Sword. I don't think we're seeing Black Omen tonight. And I think I agree, Black Omen Go Mode is probably buried, unless both Black Omen and Tyranno are equally buried behind those sword pieces. But we're running out of checks to do, especially without that Gate Key to open up Reptite Lair, to open up the Moonstone. And Dipwood is going to pick up the Gate Key! Okay, that is go. Dipwood is in go mode for Tyranno Lair, which I'm sure relieves him greatly. So the Gate Key is going to open up the way to prehistory and let us into Tyranno Lair. When we grab the Gate Key, we go ahead and use it on the closet in the Imp's house to open up. Okay. PhilosoRay is saving Fritz as well. We are saving him on both sides tonight. That's great. We're going to have potentially a lot of free items. I don't recall if Dipwood has grabbed them yet, but he definitely has time before go mode. One of the other things that the Gate Key opens up is when you jump through this gate, you can go to End of Time. And when you go to End of Time, you can meet Specchio. So we're all going to have to think magic really hard in a second to help Dipwood unlock his magic, which is going to remove the cap on Chrono and Lucas text so that he can learn more of them. We got PhilosoRay still going through the dungeon here, the Guardia Castle dungeon, after claiming his pendant. Nice dodge on the masks there. Dipwood doing the difficult float like a butterfly technique through Specchia's room, which is at a really strange angle, as you can see. But that's gonna put magic on Chrono and Lucas, so that gives us the chance for more stronger techs, especially Fire 2 and Flare on Luca. That's gonna be the biggest improvements to damage we're looking for. Alright, coming back out the gate and collecting the epic. And here we are heading into the market to see Fritz. Pick up those 10 free mid-ethers. Those are going to cure 30 MP in battle instead of 10. Definitely helps speed things up. Gonna check equipment here on this screen. I know not everybody that the shops have an equip screen, but it can be very useful, especially if you want to make sure your characters are wearing everything you need before you go on a selling spree, as it looks like he might be doing. Buying some lapises, not a bad call at all, because this party does not have healing, really. Chrono can learn life, and that's about it. Gonna open some sealed chests. PhilosoRay has met up with Nisbil 2, meanwhile. Got that dark matter damage for over 1,000, meaning this guy won't last long at all, and didn't. There he goes. There's that nice rainbow helm. Dipwood picking up Mermaid Cap and a Mega Blast. Mermaid Cap is quite a nice helmet, so that's alright, for sure. And now it's time to head to prehistory. PhilosoRay is gonna jump in that time gate there. And we're gonna see what happens. It seems more likely to me that PhilosoRay will take the same route that Dipwood has. Given that Genodome, the third check in the future, is a bit of a time sink. But we will see. Alright, so PhilosoRay entering Aris Dome, Dipwood entering Tyranno Lair at just under an hour and 9 minutes. Alright, PhilosoRay's turn to go back and forth on the scaffolding. The rat foreshadowed there, taunting us. Dipwood doing a good job showing off. You can enter your menu, your tech menu, or your item menu, but tech is a little cleaner, to allow your characters run gauges, which is to say each character has an invisible value that they're filling based on their speed. In order for your party to be able to run away, you can open up your tech menu in order to use wait mode to fill that without enemies taking actions. And you don't really need to take a lot of time to do it, as he demonstrated very nicely there. Picking up a magic seal in that room there. Alright. Think about the skips for a sec. Up first, then those 2 rows of bricks, or that's what I look at. Ooh, right side? Yeah, right side button. Okay. PhilosoRay has met the Elder Spawn in the back of Arisdome here, and it has decided to go ahead and take some of those counterattacks. Again, bit dangerous, but a viable strategy for sure. Nice skip there by Dipwood. Here is the other Lavos spawn. So we're going to see what kind of trouble that guy's going to start. Dipwood is notably going to switch those prism specs onto Chrono, which is a great call, because we can see what we're about to fight. It's that lava spawn, and Chrono has got the single target damage. PhilosoRay catching the rat very neatly there. Chrono's confuses are doing just shy of 2,000, which is nice, for certain. Okay, very clean job there. PhilosoRay is opening the treasure room in the back of Arisdome. Sadly, a little less exciting given the lack of Chrono in his party at this point, but some good stuff nonetheless. I'm gonna come hit the button here. What you must do to finish the check is hit this button that PhilosoRay is pressing here, but you can do the 2 doors in either order. Dodging the buttons, hitting the switch. That chest is empty because this shares a map with Giant's Claw, and we've already been there. Setting up that skip, you just need to stand in the corner and run up. And we're going to confront Azala. Alright, and now Dipwood is confronting his kind of go mode big mid boss. Every go mode has, you know, something, a kind of a beefy gate. This one's Black Tyranno and Azala, of course, so we're going to take out Azala, and we're going to then drop Black Tyranno's defense and do as much damage as we can. And there's PhilosoRay grabbing the gate key. And we'll go ahead, we will see what PhilosoRay decides to do with that gate key. Since, unlike Dipwood, he hasn't picked up the Dreamstone from Sun Palace first. Okay, there goes Azala down on Dipwood's side, which will force Black Tyranno to go to its script where it drops its defense. If Azala lives long enough, Black Tyranno will drop its defense anyway. As we can see, that Mega Bomb only did 49 because it hasn't dropped yet, but there we go. Alright, PhilosoRay looking like he's heading straight towards the end of time for that magic. jump out first. Sometimes people will prefer to go get their epic first. If you don't go down through the Mystic Mountains, your time machine will stay in Medina, so PhilosoRay is going to go grab it. If you do go down through the Mystic Mountains in prehistory, there is a fight you can't avoid that will trigger the time machine to be on the prehistoric map if you exit that way. Alright, looks like we might be seeing a Dactyl Nest play here. PhilosoRay looking for an extra character, and it must be Ayla. I think Ayla is the only one we haven't seen. Okay, Dipwood has defeated the Black Tyranno before it could complete its countdown, which is really all you want. I saw that a fire sword was learned, but I didn't see whether it was the good one or not. Chrono Trigger writes fire sword for both 1 and 2, so I didn't see whether that was number 1 or number 2. And I'm sure we're looking for number 2 for some hard-hitting damage with this party, but even without it, Dipwood's in pretty good shape. Alright, looks like it was Fire Sword number 1, so we're still holding out for that big damage, but Dipwood is now free to head to Zeal Kingdom. 12,000 BC is open, as well as the Sky Gate up into Zeal proper. I'm gonna board that here. Come up into the city of Kajar. Whereas meanwhile, PhilosoRay is going to meet Ayla up on Dactyl Nest. We're usually very happy to see her. And Dipwood is going to check out this new shop. There are actually 2 different ones depending on where you talk to him from. That one's got ethers, which is a lovely coincidence. Typically the one from the top will have better loot, but it does depend. And I think PhilosoRay is headed to the Sun Keep. Gonna drop off that Moonstone, I think. And with future access, pick it back up. So this is an interesting deviation we're gonna see. Gosh, I wonder what is on the Moonstone. I mean, I think it might have to be a sword piece or hero metal into sword piece. Hero metal is obviously going to go into one of the remaining Go mode items, I think, but I don't know which. And then something for Black Omen mode probably, or not probably, certainly is behind Robo on the desert. Alright. Watching Dipwood save there looked like his lead character was level 22. It's a bit low, but again, there is great grinding in here. PhilosoRay is gonna get the character out of Protodome as well, looks like. Reset by Dipwood. We're dealing with Hecarim, who doesn't take physical damage, so understandably he's swapping those prism specs onto somebody else, so we'll do a magical damage. While PhilosoRay also picks up Chrono. So he can now get the turn-in for those mid-ethers. That's exciting. Alright, and now we are back at end of time, I assume, to visit Specchio again, here on PhilosoRay's side. So PhilosoRay is going to have to jog around the room in a second, so everybody think magic for him. Dipwood is meanwhile through Hecarim, which will send him into the Ocean Palace, the final dungeon here in Jets of Time. A final dungeon. The Black Omen can also be a final dungeon. But as we've discussed, we are probably not seeing that tonight. The pieces of it seem like they're pretty buried. Dipwood doing an equipment check before heading deeper into Ocean Palace. He's in pretty good shape, I think. The Tabin vest is a little bit weak, but given that it gives you speed, you can kind of forgive it. PhilosoRay is doing similarly, checking gear before making the next move. Dodging the scouts there like a pro. Alright, and PhilosoRay is going, I think, to the future again. Yep, looks like. PhilosoRay also now with the gate key does have Reptite Lair open, but it's looking more and more like a Sun Palace check, so I think we're gonna maybe see the same go mode here opened up in a second. PhilosoRay ducks into Lab 32 and finds a Shiva Edge, which is very nice if you're using Chrono. One of his best. Probably second, I mean, I think it's second only to the Rainbow. Couple techs off of that one for Dipwood. Prism Specs onto Magus to wipe that fight. This fight here in what we call the grind spot is, I believe, 2,600 experience points, 80 tech points. This is the most efficient rechargeable grind spot in the game. Of course, if you're playing vanilla, it will go away once Ocean Palace goes away. But while it's here, it is what you've got. It is the best you've got. Alright, PhilosoRay is looking at encountering Super Slash in the Sun Palace. Alright, we did get Flare off of that last fight for Dipwood, so that's nice to have for sure. That being Luca's best standalone tech for heavy fire damage. We might still be looking for Fire 2, of course, to combine with Chrono's Confuse. PhilosoRay going on the defensive to make sure that Super Slash's physical attacks won't do nearly as bad. As you can see, that's not fun to take even with the safe status effect there, the yellow glow. flare is going to wipe that nicely in one shot. There we go, there's our fire 2. So now that Dipwood has learned fire 2, I'm guessing that in terms of text, he's probably happy. It's just a question of levels. And there's PhilosoRay getting through Super Slash no problem. PhilosoRay, you know, having taken a bit longer to get here, also does seem to be packing a little bit more power, maybe a few more levels than Dipwood was when he got there. So we'll see if that gap is able to be closed a little bit. We're going to head, I think, to the present, probably to pick up those mid-ethers, or that's what I would guess. Excellent. Also, maybe a visit to Melchior and Lean Square. Melchior here in Jets of Time is guaranteed to be selling revives and shelters, as well as a mid-tier weapon for every character who needs one. Ayla and Magus are who are excluded. Ayla doesn't need a weapon, and Magus starts with a higher than mid-tier weapon. But if you're starting a seed and you just can't get power on a physical character, you can always come to Melchior and see if you can upgrade a little bit. Now we can see as Dipwood is leveling up and moving those prism specs around, the damage to that lineup of enemies goes up. And interestingly enough, in Chrono Trigger, most enemies use the same system of defense throughout the game, and I think it's in part to make New Game Plus run kind of smoothly. That's my theory anyway, but most enemies will have standard defense. So when you know the ones that don't, you can exclude them, but given that Dipwood is fighting these enemies and they have standard defense, this is giving him a good idea of the kind of damage he's going to be able to do to some of the final bosses with his best techs here. PhilosoRay stopping in for some sweet water, a nice full heal, before we save off and I assume dip into Tyranno-Lair, I'm sorry. All of Dipwood's characters are now level 29, and he has refilled Luca's HP, and he's decided to move on. So depending on how many of the fights he takes between here and Lavos, that should put him somewhere for levels in the first half of the 30s, which is pretty good. We are also dropping magic tabs from some of those enemies in Ocean Palace. Definitely, when you're going through here, you want to pay attention to the drops. You might get something you need, you might get speed tabs, we will see. Dipwood is going ahead and checking equipment again before starting the elevator sequence. This first fight, you can run away from before you, like, actually hit the button. And PhilosoRay making his way across the balcony in Tyranno-Lair. Unfortunately, there are a lot of mean fights if you miss your skips on this balcony. But you can still run away, and you can still move forward, and that's just what's gonna happen. Alright, this one's R. Lair for right. That's my mnemonic, anyway. Alright, we're gonna hit the left button, which will still open the door. Perfect. Alright. Dipwood blew away that fight and did get a speed tap from that fight, so that means one of those enemies is dropping them. With enough of those, Dipwood could be coming into Lavos with a party at max speed. And even if you don't have completely max speed, it's still gonna be pretty good. Alright, that flare is gonna wipe 4 of those enemies. It's gonna prompt a counterattack from the scouter, but I suspect that he's calculated for that. Scouter can then be killed with lightning too by Chrono. Very nice. Okay, now we're coming into the elevator fight, the scouter fight. This fight can be a bit of a pain. We are running Black Hole with Dipwood, so there are different ways to deal with this fight. You can one-shot wipe it with a well-set-up Dino Tail or Frog Squash, which of course does require Frog or Ayla to have low enough HP. You can use Black Hole, as we saw to lovely effect right now. Black Hole will not hit all of them from any of Megas' starting positions, but it will hit 3 or 4 of them, and that's a good start. And then we clean up the fire one with Luca. Perfect. So Chrono is going to do Lightning 2, which is going to kill the White Scout. Blue Scout is going to counterattack. And then that just leaves the one. But obviously, since these scouts absorb everything but their own element, including Shadow, we can't use Shadow. Most of the traditional screen wipes don't apply there. You do need to use something like Dino Tail or Frog Squash. Falcon Hit's great to do it quickly. Right, nice scout skip there on that side by Dipwood. That's a tricky one for sure. And again, beautiful. PhilosoRay is facing the second Lavos spawn. Luckily with Confuse set up as well. And Dipwood is coming into the back of the Ocean Palace here. This is the final treasure chest, the final Ocean Palace save point. It's a crisis arm, which would be lovely if Robo were in play, but he's not, and we move on. We apportion the last of the tabs. And coming up ahead is the twin boss fight spot for Dipwood. That is the, in vanilla, the twin golems, and looks like it's going to be some flavor of Flea today. It is regular Flea. And the difference between regular Flea and Flea Plus in this case is that if it were Flea Plus, we would be able potentially to put them to sleep with Hypno Wave if Luca has learned it. But unfortunately, regular Flea will not be susceptible. Alright, PhilosoRay is through that throne room. Time to challenge Azala and Black Tyranno. PhilosoRay has actually switched to a much more physical team. Azala herself requires magical damage to pierce her defenses. So these confuses and triple kicks aren't going to do very much. Now we do see there Black Tyranno shot the laser. That's one of its attacks. Can indicate which element it's using. If it's a laser, that would be Shadow. It doesn't always get to use an attack, so we don't always peek its element before the countdown to the big attack. Alright, dipwood has triggered a stair counter attack from the second flea. Still alive, though. Flea's nastiest move by far is this counter attack that he can do anytime after he's at 50% HP. He comes and attacks everyone on the team. It's a bit complex. I think it's magical damage, but it takes physical defense. That or it takes magic defense, but the shield item that typically helps the physical defense still works with it. It's a little funny, but it also hits very hard, so the type of damage is not often always the first thing on someone's mind. That said, these Fire Sword 2s are going to be hitting pretty hard. It's about 7,000 per twin here, so that will do it. Gold earring dropped from that fight. Decent accessory. Don't know if there's a strategy here for it with this team, but maybe. PhilosoRay has reset out of that Black Tyranno fight and swapped Magus into the party, running away from those last fights to go through the throne room again, face Black Tyranno once more. Okay, and this is dipwood on the home stretch. We are going to face Lavos here in a second, the outer Lavos, and then we're going to move into the other parts, as long as that goes well. But I suspect it will. We've got plenty of power over on that side. Plenty of power on both sides. PhilosoRay taking a few hits here to clean up Azala, no problem. This dipwood faces the outer shell of Lavos. The Fire Sword 2 doing a little more damage. The status that is randomized is the lock status, which means that Luca and Magus, who got hit, can't use their techs until it's healed. It does at least mean that they are allowed to use items so that they can heal that status off of themselves or somebody else. Alright, and we are through Lavos Shell, using a shelter at this last save point, and we're going to run straight through here to Inner Lavos, Lavos number 2. Over on PhilosoRay's side, Black Tyranno is down to countdown number 1 actually, and we are filling up our MP as everybody's a bit low Did not see Black Tyranno's HP is randomized. I think it's something like 8,000 to 13 or 14,000. So depending on the roll, it could be harder to take it down. And it looks like that attack did go off. Oh wow, that is unfortunate. It looks like Magus had survived the dark matter from that Shadow Elemental Black Tyranno, but unfortunately he had the HP down from the roar effect and died immediately. Question from chat, Scream cut out as I was explaining for Fire Sword 2 damage. Yeah, it hits Flea for less because Flea has higher magical defense, so it's going to do more to Lavos than Flea. Alright, Dipwood is through Lavos 2's arms, the first phase of that fight. We're gonna see an obstacle coming out again, and as we know, it's lock, so we're ready with the heals. Immediately pop one off on Luca so that she can do the flare. Almost 3k. Dipwood now is basically in a bit of a race with Inner Lavos to do 10,000. Okay, I have sound. Alright. Okay, I think what we missed there on Dipwood's screen was Lavos 2's attack, the poison attack that he does. Alright, and Dipwood has dealt enough damage. Got another Shiva Edge off Lavos there. Unfortunately, this next reset screen fades to black. You can actually open your window. It's not intended, but it's one of those fun little exploits, and especially for speedrunning, the heal chance between Lavos 2 and Lavos 3 can be critical. If you miss that, it can mean you reset. Not always, but it can. And I think Dipwood is still also rocking at least one Mega Elixir that we picked up earlier. So I think he's going to be in pretty good shape here. Okay, Lavos' core is getting slappy, hitting Chrono there for a lot of damage. Luckily, he hit Chrono. I think the other two wouldn't have survived that, but that is the kind of luck you count on for Lavos' core. And luckily, that middle bit, we needed to drop one of the bits, left or middle, to drop the defense as it's doing now, and damage the actual core of Lavos. The center bit does have lower defense in general than other things, so that brings the Fire Sword 2 up past 4,000 damage, which, since it has 8,000, is kind of the threshold you're looking for to two-shot it. So that's great. Meanwhile, that 3,600 steady damage over here. PhilosoRay is facing Black Tyranno and Azala once more. Not giving up. Alright, there goes Lavos with its active life, which is part of its cycle. When you take down the non-essential bits, it drops its defense in order to focus its energy on bringing them back. So once it brings them back, you've got a couple of choices, and Dipwood is electing to continue to wail on the right bit a little bit, because it will not restore its defenses immediately. But if you think that you're not going to be able to take it down quickly enough, you can always start killing center bit again, or even left bit. The nice thing though is that when the bits come back via active life, they do take a little bit longer before they get a turn. So center bit is now active again, but wasn't for all that time, which is good. Alright, PhilosoRay hitting Confuse on Black Tyranno, which is doing its countdown now. And that is GG for Dipwood at an official time of 1 hour 47 minutes and 41 seconds. And that was an excellent run by Dipwood. Let's get GG's in the chat. It looks like Dipwood is going to decline an interview, but we will send him our GG's. He's going to move forward in this Alphador Derby tournament to make the top 8, so congratulations for that, dude. Excellent run, very clean. Okay, now PhilosoRay has proved that third time is the charm. Great job getting through Black Tyranno. And we're gonna watch Lavos, Meteor Lavos, make our dinosaur friends go extinct. I guess they're not really friends. They were kind of trying to eat us, but you know, that's nature, you know? We can't be that mad. And go ahead here, jump into the epic. And head to another time period. All right, and PhilosoRay is wasting no time getting straight up into Zeal, straight up into Kajar, walking over that heal panel, come up, get the speed tab. We're going to stop up at this new shop here, opening up the Firebook by accident. Ultimately, we didn't end up checking that rock in Kajar with either player, but neither player ended up using the Black Rock team in the end, so we will hope for a rock party next time. Right, we're going to check out the shop here. And I do apologize, PhilosoRay's audio isn't usable. If I'm wrong, someone can correct me, but I checked the stream and I don't believe we can use it. So we will have silence for now, but we will be getting through this pretty quickly here. Coming up into Zeal Palace. It's always interesting to me who goes left and who goes right because it's completely arbitrary. All right, let's see. And PhilosoRay is at about level 23. Okay, so PhilosoRay is only a little bit higher level than Dipwood was here at this point. Gonna go in, and we know it's Hecarim here in the throne room, which might provoke another reset? Yep. Because, of course, Hecarim is another boss that requires a lot of magical damage. For the final bosses, for Lavos, the very physical party is going to be completely fine. But there are a few that can be randomized where you're just going to need some magic. Gonna hit Hecarim with that dark matter. I'll actually go ahead and take a second here to plug our info again. There we go. That has the tournament bracket for this Alphador Derby, our Speedgaming Live tournament for 2025. The schedule for Jets of Time, and a link to our Discord if you would like to join, and even if you would like to learn how to play Jets of Time. We do have an event for beginners called the Gato Cup. It's run by a great community member, One Free Fits, and we are currently taking signups. And what the Gato Cup is all about is it pairs you as a new player with one of the more experienced folks from our community. And we do mentored practices, and we also do an actual mentored tournament with races, proper races, but you're on with your mentor throughout the race. So you have someone you can ask questions to, someone who could remind you of things to do, someone who can help you learn skips, etc. It's a really great program. We have a couple people who came out of that Gato Cup program in this tournament doing pretty well too. So I definitely highly recommend it. And if that interests you, definitely join up our Discord. PhilosoRay is through Hecarim into the Ocean Palace proper. Go ahead and shelter here. Got 4 shelters left, which is probably just enough. Extra speed tab. Now, as I recall, it was a gold earring drop from that Hecarim fight. PhilosoRay's team, since PhilosoRay is running with Ayla and Frog, it's possible we might see some Dino Tail or Frog Squash strats on the elevator. The gold earring could help with that. It is also possible we'll pick up Falcon Hit, which is probably the nicer choice because Falcon Hit doesn't require you to drop somebody's HP. You know, you don't mess it up if you use a shelter at that save point right before the elevator. Although the earring, since you can put it on after you shelter, can help protect you from that mistake too. But we're going to have lots of options for clearing that elevator fight. All right, Frog has learned Leap Slash, so we picked up Drop Kick, and I think 3D Attack as well, which is Drop Kick plus Chrono. Drop Kick is notoriously one of the best physical double techs in the game. 3D Attack is probably the best physical triple tech in the game, possibly just the best physical tech combo tech in the game, period. That's going to be hitting hard. And it's a nice pickup, actually, against... We know that the twin boss is going to be Flea. Flea is a boss that can counterattack pretty viciously, and you generally want to avoid casting a lot of AoEs against twin bosses like that. the damage can pile up against you pretty quickly. So this party with dropkick and 3D attack, it will be able to do solid damage to a single flea pretty efficiently. Hopefully without triggering too many of those counterattacks. But if we can get a drop kick over that magic number of 3,500, then you should only need 2 to drop a flea. PhilosoRay has hit the grind spot. We started with a lightning 2, which unfortunately doesn't do too much damage. Chrono's magic isn't the best. Ayla's Dino Tail not doing a huge amount of damage, but enough to wipe out those guys so that there aren't more counterattacks. The mages do like throwing those fireballs for a decent handful of damage there. All right, there's Falcon Hit. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're gonna rely on Falcon Hit for that fight on the elevator. Although it does look like we are PhilosoRay has switched Ayla into the front position of the party, which might mean that she's going to get set up for low HP by the statue that's in a little bit that's going to blow fire. However, Falcon Hit will also help much with these guys. Okay, so we do have Ayla in the front position, but we skipped the statue that does extra damage. She may, of course, already have some damage on her, if that is in fact the strategy being employed. Gonna triple kick one of these guys, which is understandable. They don't always counterattack, but when they do, it's time consuming. It doesn't often hurt very badly, but it is time consuming, and you definitely want to avoid that. Great damage off that Falcon Hit. I think what PhilosoRay just did was run downstairs into the save room, and then has run back up here to repeat this fight instead. Now, it is not quite as good as the grind spot up there, but the Falcon Hit will kill it pretty handily. So he may be coming back up for more tech points this way. We'll definitely look for a menu for a level when he decides to menu again. Those guys appearing on the bottom stairs, a rare sight, especially in the rando. Falcon Hit will clean those up very nicely. Thinking about taking some fireball hits, perhaps remembering that Falcon Hit is an option, so you don't need to drop HP. This is a great one to test Falcon Hit on. Looks like it's going to do just that. Perfect. It's always nice to know that your attack is going to do enough to actually defeat the scouts, especially on that third fight. You can run from that fight, but if you're not sure, it's a great one to take so that you can test whether your damage is good. I suspect we're going to falcon hit our way through the whole elevator. That's going to hit everyone on screen. The Jinn is going to survive because of the Barghest's shield, of course. One of the only ways to one-shot this fight is to use the Luca Ayla Fire Whirl because it will pierce the Jinn's defenses. Another falcon hit. Clean this one up. And finally, the scout fight. Watch here, because this will truly be a thing of beauty. A wonderful way to get through that fight. Fast and clean. Great job. Always a fun technique to use. All right, that is the last elevator match. So here we go into the bowels of the Ocean Palace. Hit the switches on either side. Gonna attempt to do the scout skip here. Oh, nice. The scout skip has two parts to it. The first part is pretty easy because you need to, as you can see, PhilosoRay is lining himself up kind of in the center of the edge of the carpet there. And the second part, you need to bonk the monster, thus waking him up and starting his animation, and then run around him. And there's a lot of things that need to happen in a short period of time. So it can be a little tricky. That was very nicely executed, though. Okay, we know that this is a crisis arm that will sadly go unused. Shelter, and use as many tabs as we have at this final save point, except for the Lavos one. All right, and here come the twin fleas once again. I'm hoping we're going to get to see. All right, we're going to open with Falcon Hit. And that is going to do 1,000, about 1,100 to each of them. When they get to about 3,500, that's when they can counterattack. And that's the danger zone. Of course, Flea can also do this Wind of Poison, which isn't fun. The poison status effect will actually any status effect on your characters can lower their battle power as a matter of course as well, which is not always fun. Can mess up your calculations. We're going to go ahead and charm that Flea. We get a demon hit, which is a, upper mid-tier sword. Oh, we don't need it. Probably. Gonna 3D attack again. And you can see the difference in damage because they are both poisoned. It's down, 250 or something. So it's a significant reduction. And it sounds like a storm is blowing in on my end, so if you can hear thunder, I apologize. And if not, good. But my computer is on backup power, so we should be fine if the worst should happen. All right, now that we've got a decent amount of damage on both fleas, we're going to switch to single target with that confuse. And then we're going to see a drop kick. For pretty good damage, and of course it will do more when not poisoned, when Ayla's not poisoned. And that might mean that PhilosoRay has dropped that first flea. It's hard to tell because in this fight, the first sprite doesn't always disappear right away when it is killed. Just a funky side effect of moving the bosses around different scenes and the different effects that were used in each scene originally. Gonna go with a Slurp Kiss here. That's a great move because Slurp Kiss is going to heal the whole party for a little bit of HP, and it's also going to heal everybody's status. Okay, it looks like that first flea is still up because we're doing the stare, but thanks to the healing, PhilosoRay is going to be okay. That hurts, but oh, we are lucky, and everybody only got hit like once. Okay, this is probably not going to be fun because it could put chaos on Frog, who might be about to pop out a heal, but hopefully he's protected. Okay, it didn't work, so that's great. Perfect. You can definitely see the power of heal compared to Slurp Kiss for sure, because Slurp is such an early game tech. And we're back to the full damage on Falcon hit. All right, here comes a 3D attack. This is, of course, visually, it's X Strike with Ayla coming down on top of it. Looks like that will end it at just under 3,000 damage. Now Ayla is poisoned for that because we got another poison attack. So that does mean, of course, that the 3D attack will do even more. Should PhilosoRay choose to use it against Lavos. It's always fun seeing triple techs. The downside of a triple tech, of course, is that it is using up everybody's turn. If you need to heal on the quick, you're not going to have somebody available, but they can do quite a bit of damage if it's the right one. All right, PhilosoRay has charged forward, did not go back to the save point to shelter. There is actually a menu glitch here if he needs to heal, but we will see if he goes for it. When the screen goes black after the mana machine fades, you actually can open the menu if you need. All right, so we are not going to menu glitch here, but I'm guessing that everyone's doing pretty okay because that last heal spell was near the end of that fight. That is awesome. That 3D attack breaking the all-important barrier of 4,000 hit points, which means about 3 of those will do him in. We're gonna play it safe though and get a heal off because we know we're waiting on obstacle. PhilosoRay may not know what obstacle is, but we know that it's lock, so it won't be a super problem or anything. Things like sleep and stop that completely rob you of your turn tend to be a lot scarier. All right, there goes Lavos's energy release. That is the last move in its rotation. It's just going to do those 3 moves over and over. Going to go ahead and physically attack Lavos. But I know that won't do damage as quickly as the techs, and it would probably be worth taking the time to use a couple heals if they're available. Or, of course, Slurp Kiss. All right, here come the heals straight on the other side of the second obstacle, which does ensure that Chrono and Ayla, who are vulnerable to the status effects, have the most time to spend without it. Frog is going to need some MP. We're going to do anything fancy here. But there we go. There's a second 3D attack. And if you can do another, it's dead, but healing is the safe move, and I do not fault him for that whatsoever. All right, here comes another obstacle. All right, and there we go. We're done. Green Dream off of that form of Lavos, in case that's something that PhilosoRay might want. That, of course, is a pre-re-raise accessory. Using the last save point heading into Lavos 2. Now, of course, earlier we saw Dipwood blaze through this phase of Lavos 2. What we're dealing with here, of course, is the first phase where he's got his big beefy arms. He's gonna be repeating this attack. If you leave the arms up for too long, the arms will shoot annoying blades at you if you leave them alive for too long. So we're going to be looking at A, staying alive, and B, doing enough damage to the arms to down them quickly. The arm on our left has 4,000 HP, and the one on the right has 5,000. Going to go ahead and Falcon hit because Frog was needed for a heal. Definitely the move. This is a fairly defensive party, so with one blade each hitting somebody, they will not fall down. That heal is absolutely earning its keep. Another Falcon hit should bring the damage up to a little bit under 4K each, I think. We're gonna regularly attack the arm and miss because that's how it be sometimes. All right, here come more blades, but we're gonna live because Chrono and Ayla are doing good. All right, the Falcon hit will be enough to get that left arm down, and then the right arm should just need a little more after that. Right? It's using Protective Seal on Chrono. What this game means by disables defensive status actually is that if you have any equipment that has a protective effect, such as status protection for one, or barrier or shield, it turns it off. So that is what that does. Right? Chrono taking an unfortunate hit. Gonna heal again. Hopefully get that last bit of damage onto that arm. Luckily, it will take turns recovering the main body, which in Jets of Time at least is generally not an issue. The body itself, you can't hurt it until it wakes up and it does obstacle, which it's doing now. If you take too long killing the arms, it will wake up and start doing shenanigans with the arms still alive, and that can be not fun. But that is not usually seen in Jets of Time. We usually come in with enough damage to get them dispatched pretty quickly. And now this is the race to 10,000 damage. So luckily, that Shadow Slay that Lavos does for poison didn't stick to anybody. That 3D attack doing just under 4,000, but we only need 10k. So one more is going to end this. Now Flame Battle is the last one before Shadow Doomblaze, which is Lavos's big damaging attack. But looks like PhilosoRay is going to get off that last 3D attack. So excellent. That is going to end this phase of Lavos. And to be honest, even if he hadn't, I'm pretty sure he would have lived. So we're good. And now Lavos is reduced to its core form. First thing you see is this funny little guy. Now he's going to summon his bits. We're going to hopefully see that menu glitch here as the screen goes dark. Excellent. You can see that PhilosoRay has his input display turned on, was holding the X button to open the menu to take advantage of the maximum frames of input to get that open. Healing everybody up nice and quick. Going to be starting from a much nicer position than if he had not done so. All right, just under 4k again there. Unfortunately, Lavos has brought out the Thunderbolts, and those don't feel good. But Chrono has the life spell. That's great. That's going to do more than a regular revive. And yes, welcome in anyone coming in late. This has been a really interesting run. It was definitely kind of a bottleneck towards this Tyrannolar mode, as you can see from the trackers, and everything else was probably pretty buried. All right, we got a classic Falcon hit Lavos strategy here. Meanwhile, Lavos core is starting to time warp. That is one of the AI cycles it can go onto. When it starts here at Millennial Fair, it means you're about to get random status effects inflicted upon you. That said, I do believe Frog is protected. Well, and Ayla's down, so that in a way is a blessing in disguise. She can't get hit. Chrono is stopped, but we can fix that with a heal if there is one. It looks like there may not be a heal available, but we can revive Ayla. She can use Kiss on Chrono to remove that stop status effect. Hope is not lost. Go ahead and looks like Dino Tail everything. That will do some damage. I don't know if it's going to be enough by itself to take that middle bit down. Looks like it is not. But we're gonna use a heal, regroup a little bit. The random status has already been inflicted. Lavos is getting slappy again, so that's another thing to contend with. But if PhilosoRay can get himself out of this loop, I can still be okay. Unfortunately, that now doesn't look too good with Frog having dropped. That's super unfortunate. To be out of the status healing at this point in the game. All right, we're gonna come back up this way to Lavos 2. Yeah, that was pretty mean, honestly. I think you don't often see Lavos core interweaving its lightning bolts and its slaps with the time warps as much as we did there. And you know, it's completely random in the end, but you know, that was an unfortunate draw, especially with that stop. But hopefully now knowing that he is low on heals, the item that cures your status, he knows that he can rely on Ayla's Kiss. I don't know if Frog has Cure 2, but Cure 2 for Frog and for Marl actually is modified in Jets of Time, so it has a status cure as well. And it's one of those things you don't use often, but every now and then it will save you. Right? Different characters getting bladed. Perfect. Damage is scary, but as long as you live, that's all that really matters. Start doling out damage to both arms. Got some extra damage on the right arm, and then Falcon hitting for both of them to take some damage. Took down the left arm. It's always critical to take down at least one of them because that resets its the other arm's script will reset in that case, which means that you will not immediately be hit with a bunch of more of those blades. All right, there we go. Arms down, waiting on that obstacle to drop Lavos' defenses. Excellent use of Slurp Kiss there. That's another one that you don't see used all that often, but it's one of those tricks in your bag of tricks, and it can save you sometimes. Beautiful damage off that 3D attack. Lava's doing this crap again. So we're going to see a little less damage off of this 3D attack. Looks like about by 400, but still pretty good. Chrono's low on HP, but I bet a regular drop kick might end this. There we go, I think. Yep, perfect. Lava's transforming once more. Really appreciating all these fun Akira Toriyama monster designs. All right, excellent menu glitch again. Couple of mid tonics. You know, HP is in pretty good shape after that, but there's always MP. All right, ran out of the ethers purchased earlier. All right, we're going to open with a drop kick on center bit, looks like. Looking for 8,000 damage to drop that center bit. And yes, there was a Mega Elixir dropped by a boss earlier. So that is an option in his pocket as long as he doesn't run into too many awful status effects again. And well, like, so the good news is the Lavos core took its turn, and we're not looking at nasty status effects, but we are potentially looking at getting squished by like the most unpleasant rock you ever saw in 16 bits. You don't want that Grandstone attack to go off. But I think we're getting 2,000 off of a drop kick and off of a confuse, and that should add up to 8k, and that's what it takes. And PhilosoRay is safe. The right bit is dropping its defense, and it's time to go on the offensive. We're looking for 20,000 damage against this one. Chrono's hit stat isn't great, so this happens sometimes. All right, now we're gonna look at that 3D attack. Beautiful. Closer to 4k. That is about the same damage you get from doing the attacks separately. But that said, in 3D attack, Chrono I think is using spin cut instead of confuse, so he's saving a lot of MP. We got active life up, but that damage is awesome. So we'll keep piloting it on that right bit while it's possible. Right, got a Falcon hit going through. Lovely with the right bit's defense down, hitting everything. Okay, center bit is back in action with a time warp to Millennial Fair, so that means those status effects could be coming back out. We're going to use that Mega Elixir to get back in the best position possible and probably just start piling damage. Looks like PhilosoRay is going to keep going for right bit. Gonna get hit by spell, and hopefully... Okay, Chrono is stopped again. So what we're gonna need to do probably is hit Chrono with Kiss. Slurp Kiss will do too. Heal some HP as well. Perfect. Sometimes when something goes wrong, the best thing you can do is do better next time. And now PhilosoRay is safe for a bit. This attack that the Lava's Core goes to next doesn't kill you outright. It's the 50% of your HP attack. The power on Frog's heals from Frog's magic stat being raised is great. That's critical here too. Being able to get back 500 against Lavos is excellent. Especially, you know, if you're not running a lot of a lot of other healing. All right, got the left bit down this time, which is great. You pivot depending on what you've been doing. He had hit it with a falcon hit, so knew that a confuse should take it down, and it did. And what having the left bit down means, other than dropping its defenses, is it means you can use full screen damage. If the center bit goes down, you won't take a counterattack from the left bit as you would normally. All right. Now, center bit has transitioned to future. This is a powerful magic attack that it will do here. So this one's scarier, but yep, GG's, PhilosoRay. That was a marathon, and I'm sure that was pretty hard, but I think that was a really well done race, and I'm really happy that PhilosoRay was able to complete that. So definitely GG. I'm gonna ask if you'd like to do an interview. See about that. Let's get GG's in chat for PhilosoRay. I bet it feels good to be done with that one. That was an interesting seed, definitely with the routing. We'll definitely see. All right, looks like PhilosoRay should be in just a second. Okay, all right. Should get him in here in just a second. And yes, we have PhilosoRay in here now. GG's.
Hello, thanks.
Oh, that was sure an interesting seed. Oh, do you have any initial thoughts?
So initial thoughts, being up against dipwood was like, okay, I'm probably behind the whole time. Finding 4 secondary, I call them secondary items in the beginning, like Moonstone, Prism, Thomas Pop Jerky. I was like, okay, there's got to be something somewhere. And as soon as I got, what was it, Gate Key and Aristome, actually, Pendant and Giant's Claw, I saw Thomas Pop early and then thought, man, if Giant's Claw's the play, I'm going to be kicking myself doing everything else first. But I've also
Always,
been screwed
yeah.
by not doing Denadoro, so I'm glad I did to get the Ruby Knife, and then it was a really easy Ruby Knife, independent into Gate Key. But I recognized my Tyranno layer. Man, I need to learn my Tyranno layer skips, because that's probably where I lost all of my time.
For sure, Tyrannosaur skips are hard. You actually weren't too far behind for most of the race. That seed was all very bottlenecked in its logic.
Yep.
You know, you had to go through Giant's Claw to go forward. I think that both of you went through there last as far as like your other options. And then of course once you get to future, the path was sort of if not obvious, easy enough to predict, especially,
Yeah.
we're thinking about it. We're like, who knows where Black Omen Go mode is? Probably behind the frickin' Moonstone or something. But
Who knows?
the sword pieces, one of them must have been on like Genodome or something. But yeah, I think every other Go mode was super buried, and it was this one, or you were playing for another hour. Like,
Right. So when did Dipwood break away?
I would say probably at the end in like Go mode.
Ah,
His
okay.
Go mode was a little cleaner, but
Yeah.
you guys did a lot of the same stuff. Your power at the end was good. Your use of the 3D attack was very nice. We always root for triple text, so I'm like, yeah.
Yep. I was feeling like weak in the early game because only Magus had a screen clear, and it was just like, what the heck, yo? And then nobody else had anything until you got the gate key and could unlock magic. But at
Yeah,
that
the
point, I was
text,
like,
yeah.
man, it's kind of what do I do? And then I realized that Chrono and Ayla were the last two checks, and I was like, well, I've got them open. I may as well just grab them and actually pick a party that I care about and that I'm comfortable with, and then
Hmm.
actually go clear the game that way. Lo and
Yeah.
behold, though, doing that, I still needed to switch Magus in because I got the double flea fight at the end and was like, you know what? This is silly.
Yeah, no, there were a lot of bosses, and like there was Hecarim. There were a lot of
Yep.
bosses in the seed that just wanted magic, and that was a little bit unfortunate. But when you could use the physical team, they served you very nicely, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I'm
that
pretty
was good.
comfortable with
Yeah.
the team I ended with, so it's all good.
Hmm.
Well, grats to Dipwood.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for hosting and letting us do this. This is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for playing in this tournament. It's been great having you. I'm sorry you're out, but
Ah, that's
I'm
life.
glad you were in once.
More commentating for me. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yes, we'll be really happy to hear you on comms. Let's see. We do have one more race in this round. It is on Saturday. Looks like 2 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be one free Fitz versus the Schwantz 27, and that's going to determine the last member of our top 8. So don't
Nice.
miss it. Yeah.
Awesome.
But all right.
Well, thanks for the interview, and thanks to everybody at Speed Gaming.
Yeah, thanks everybody at Speed Gaming. Thanks Akuhaish for being our Speed Gaming setup volunteer, doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes for these streams. Thank you everybody who's helping with the tournament, everyone running in the tournament, and chat, and the Jets community. And we will see you next time. And everybody have a fantastic night. Thanks for a great race.